Hi, this is Sara Levin, the Artful Inker. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I have this jar of flowers lock and gatefold card to share with you. So let me set this aside and we'll get started. For this card, we're going to be using the Jar of Flowers bundle, which is the Jar of Flowers stamp set, and then the coordinating jar punch. Now, when you purchase these together, you do get a bundle discount of 10%. I have a piece of Very Vanilla that we're going to start with, and Pool Party, and the stamp for the base of the jar. And I'm just going to take this stencil that I made and put it on here, and then you can either mark it or just use it as a guide to stamp through. And the reason that I'm using this is so that I don't get too high or too low on this piece when I'm stamping. So let's set this aside just a moment, and then oh nope, let's bring that back in. Forgot that I need to add my stems in the jar, and so we're going to take that bundle of stems, and I think I want the uneven part of them at the bottom. Okay, and then let's leave that out and push this over and grab our sunflower stamps. If I didn't say, this is cinnamon cider ink, which is just a pretty soft brownish shade. Okay, so let's close this up and bring in my Stampin' Blends, and I'm going to start by coloring the water, and I'm going to use Pool Party for that. So I've got my dark and light Pool Party, and I'm just going to bring the dark down the side here, and down the side here, and a little across the bottom, and give it a little flick back here. And then the rest of this will blend in the light. It's been a little while since I've done some coloring on a card, and it just felt like what I wanted to do today. Do you go through periods where you're coloring and then you're not? So I'm just coming down between some of the stems here, and I'm going to give this another run back up the side here to soften that original line of dark ink. Okay, so there's our water. Let's put these Pool Party off to the side, and I'm going to color my stems with the dark Old Olive, and let's just picking and choosing here. I'll come back with some of the light Old Olive, but they can't all be the same color, or you don't get any sense of one's in front of the other, or depth, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. Okay, let's come back with that bullet tip in the dark again and add that in a couple more places. And back here with the light. And I'm going to bring the dark here for this final one here. Okay, so that's all of my stems colored. And then I am going to come back with this light pool party now and just brush right across the stems, because of course if they're actually in the water, they will have a light blue around them. Okay, so that's that piece colored. Now we have these sunflowers, and I want something approaching Bumblebee, so I'm going to be using my Dark and Light Daffodil Delight and then adding in a little bit of crumb cake. So starting in the centers here, I'm hitting this with the Dark Daffodil Delight, and then I'm going to come in and touch it lightly with the light crumb cake, and then we're just going to quick blend that out from the centers with the light Daffodil Delight. Okay, and I'm going to hit that one more time with the crumb cake, just lightly. And then back with the light Daffodil Delight. And that tones down. We've still got the yellow going, but it not as bright as the daffodil by adding that little bit of crumb cake to it. So let's do that again on these other two sunflowers. I'm just doing a rough coloring here. You could take time and do a more defined coloring for each one of these petals. I'm feeling like rough coloring is where I'm at today, so this works for me. Okay, and then I'm going to again just stroke in a little bit of this crumb cake on here, and then back again we'll brighten a little bit with the daffodil, the light daffodil. Okay, and then let's do this last one in here. Now we're coloring on Very Vanilla, and if you haven't colored on Very Vanilla versus Whisper White, your colors are a little bit different, and you have to wait for things to dry to really know what the shades will look like. So it's okay to do your first blend and let things dry, and kind of like when you're painting a wall, and then come back and paint again. So let's cap up these Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to bring in some of the greenery, and we're just going to use bullet tips for that. Our greens are small, and this is over here on the dark, and then I'm just going to come between, just following the shape of the stamped bit, but not really coloring in the stamped image for that fern piece. And then we're just going to make this green. I'm not worrying about a rough coloring because I am going to cut this out in the end. Let's add a little bit of dark down at the base of these. And then we'll come back and give it a little bit of a blend. Okay, and Let's cap these up. And yes, that's the light. We're just going to come in here on this, and I'm going to leave the bulk of it uncolored so that, there we go, you get a little highlight on the one edge. Okay, and then for this flower down here, we're just going to color in some dark Calypso coral, and then come across with the light. And again, we're just doing a rough kind of color with this. I see a couple little places that I have missed with the Daffodil Delight. So I'm going to come back in with my bullet tip and get those petals back in here. And I find that's often the case. As I finish coloring, I see some little things that may not have been colored initially. Okay, so let me come just with a little bit of crumb cake in here to give it a little bit of shape, and then we're ready to cut this piece out using our paper snips. And you're just going to wiggle the paper and move it versus your scissors as you go around. Have you tried the Stampin' Blends yet? I find them a very easy coloring medium. It's easy to color with them and look like you've got some coloring skills. And I'm all for anything that makes it easy to look like we know more about how to use our tools with a minimum of effort. Okay, so I'm going to pause this and finish the cutting, and I'll be right back. Okay, so next we're going to use some of the Flowers for Every Season designer paper, and it's a 6x6 pack, and as you can see, we can pretty well go through all the seasons of the year. Like this side makes me think fall and winter, and then you've certainly got spring and summer on the reverse side. So a great all year round paper pack. I've got a piece here that's in cinnamon cider, and I'm going to use this template that we had before to help line up my jar punch, and put this in and give it a partial squeeze. It looks like we're straight. Okay, and then we'll put that jar aside, and I've got a piece of crumb cake, and I'm going to adhere this piece to the crumb cake. Let's straighten that up on the grid paper and lay this down. Okay, give it a second to dry here. And then we're going to use this jar punch again and punch right in here. Now the reason I didn't layer them together and punch all at one time is we can get too thick for a punch, and we don't want to do that and possibly break our punch. So if we do our top layer first is easier, because then you can see right down through it. That that'll save you doing any harm to your punch. Okay, so next I have one of the mason jar domes, and I have braided linen trim, and I'm going to set a length of this in here so that I've got some on either side, and then I'm going to take off the front of the dome, and this just gets a tiny bit fiddly, but not too bad. So I want to have the back of the have this go through the linen loop, the braided linen trim loop on the back. Make sure that I've got enough of the trim coming out this other side. So, and then let's pull this down at the area that we want it. So I'm going to hold it in between here like this, and then slide my dome into place in the punch slot. Okay. And then I want to remove this back piece of sticky here, and we're going to slide this piece down in. I'm just going to make it a little narrower on either side so that it easily slides down into our braided trim loop here. Oops. So I'm going to bow it as we come through so that I'm not sticking to the sticky. Whoops. Which is what I keep trying to do here. And now before I allow it to stick, I need to turn this over and make sure that my jar looks like it's in the jar. So we'll give this a little bit of a wiggle and then a press. Okay, and then I'm just going to trim this piece off the top. It's not going to show. Okay, so let's give this a rub all the way around. We're going to tie a bow around the middle of the jar here. I'm going to leave these long because I will likely come back and play with that, and if I leave some length, it allows me some room to play. So next, I want to put my flowers on here with dimensionals. So I'm going to use a double stack up here at the top, and then nothing here at the bottom because it's going to rest on the lip of the jar there. Okay, let me just make sure that we've got that. Oh, we're going to need one more, so let's triple those up. Okay, one more. Do our dry fit here. And we'll put these down. And it gives it just a little bit of dimension here. Okay, let's move all of this over. Then let's take, let me grab my trimmer just one moment. Okay, with the trimmer, we're going to take this other piece of cardstock. It's 2 1/4, so put it in at 1 1/8, and you're just going to draw a light line down the center here. Let's see, I didn't draw much of a line there, so let me put it back in. You could even draw a dark line down the center because it's not going to be seen. Okay, and so what we want to do down this line is add our dimensionals. Okay, and I'm going to do a double stack of these. Okay, and then we'll turn this over, and this piece is going to go on the back here. Oop. And we're just going to center that. We want to make sure we're straight at the top and bottom. If you are not, it's okay to come in and take your paper snips and trim a little so that you won't see. Okay, so next I've got a piece of Very Vanilla, and I've got this diagonal, I'm going to call it stripe. Now, as you can see, it's thin and it easily moves. So when we get photopolymer stamps like that, I like to put them on one of the grid lines so that I know they're straight and then pick it up with my block, rather than trying to make it straight on my block. So I've got Bumblebee ink and this piece of Very Vanilla, and I'm just going to straighten up the Very Vanilla. And then I hope I'm not putting my head in the camera. We'll do this first one. And then I'm going to bring this down just a little lower so that I can see to match these up. So I'm matching, let's make sure I've inked that end line. Okay. And there we go. I overlapped just a little bit there. So now we've got our Night of Navy base, and this piece is going to go on the inside. You can always stamp that line using your Stamparatus. It is my favorite way to be sure that I have things absolutely lined up. Okay. Oh. And then I've got 2 more pieces of that Flower for Every Season designer paper. Let's, oops, we'll put that here. And then I'm going to take my fingers and wipe that off. And then we'll take this one and put on the other side. Okay. Now I'm going to slide our locking mechanism down in here. Oops. I don't know why I'm being so fiddly with this, because there's quite obviously plenty of room with the double stack of dimensionals there. Okay, so there's our locking mechanism, and we're going to come back to this bow now. I want to add a little piece of this scalloped lace trim to our bow, and let's begin to tie this, and going to loop, trying to decide whether I want a double loop here. Okay, we're going to put this in. And then I'm going to come around. And let's pull all of these pieces around. Okay. And then we need to trim this. As I said before, we'd be going a little long and then coming back and playing with that a little bit, as we've just done. And this needs a little bit of a angle cut. Okay, almost done. So then finally, let's grab some of these in color enamel dots, and we're going to add some of these in the cinnamon cider. And come over here. And then I think we're going to add a couple in the bumblebee. And we'll just come right around here. Oops. Okay. And you'll see that we've added a couple little triangles here. And then we need just one more to finish this, because we've got two groups of 3, which is 6. And so we need to make that 7. And we can add one little one up here on the flower, and there you go. So that's today's locking gatefold card using flowers for every season. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell if you would like to receive notifications the next time I upload a video. Please share my videos with any of your card making friends, and of course you can find all of your Stampin' Up! Supplies in my store. There's a link below in the description. Have a great day. Bye.